Mark, thanks for sticking around for our new feature afterwards. As I said, with a book like this, when we're dealing with upside down thinking, we have to go a little deeper. And the part I said I wanted to go deeper in is especially this notion of consciousness surviving after death. Because as I stated emphatically in the show, I believe that. And now I'll share with you something very personal. I believed it before I even knew what consciousness or mind was. I remember even being a very young child, and somehow or another, and this is not like I had a past experience or anything, just a belief that there's something besides death that happens when we physically leave, and whatever that is. And people always say, well, it's the memory, it's this. I go, no, 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 no. There's something else, and it is that consciousness. So it's revolutionary when you think that way. I need your thoughts on that now.
Well, I tend to agree with you now. I wouldn't have 2+ years ago. I thought implicitly that consciousness comes from the brain, and therefore, when the brain is off, when the physical body dies, the consciousness must also die. And that led me to believe that there was no meaning in life, because that means once someone dies, their memories are gone. So anything that happened during the life is wiped out upon physical death. However, with the research that I've done, it appears to me that consciousness is not dependent on the brain or the body at all, and that when the physical body dies, consciousness simply transitions.
But then this is the question that you ask, and I wrote it down because I didn't even, what are the implications for everyday life? Once we make this kind of an awareness, what are the implications?
There are many. So I think for science and medicine, those disciplines need to account for this new understanding of consciousness. Because if our equations, for example, are not incorporating consciousness, what are we missing from our technological and medical advances? So that's one. But in terms of all of us living our daily lives, one is the notion of intuitive or psychic abilities, the idea that we actually have abilities to know things, to have subtle telepathic abilities. These are things that are not harnessed in the current environment, the current education system, but there are many studies that I reference in An End to Upside Down Thinking which suggest that our brain is sort of like an antenna receiver, and if we learn how to harness it, and some people are better configured than others, we might be able to enhance our performance in certain things.
Well, I'm going to give you now and share with my audience a theory I have, okay? It's my own theory, guys, so this is not from the book. Don't blame Mark, okay? But, you know, you did say that the health professions have to think of these things differently. One of the things that I've always believed, especially about schizophrenia, was that, again, if consciousness is a little bit outside, what would happen if their receiver is actually picking up what they're picking up, even though it's not what's in our reality? And we're calling them schizophrenic and crazy, when I'm almost thinking that if a doctor walked up and said, you know something, you're not crazy. What the problem is your receiver's broken, and we've got to fix your receiver. I swear to you, that's my belief when it comes to people suffering from schizophrenia and major psychosis. I'm not talking about just depression and things like that. That the world and animals suffer from. But I think that if doctors were more in tune with that potentialness of consciousness in that way, they may find a different way to treat people with severe mental illness.
I think the medical profession needs to be at least open to that idea. There are some people that have been very talented at bringing forth accurate information through something that's outside of themselves. But in those cases, there's more control. So somehow they've learned how to control their receiver, to use the analogy. And maybe in the case of schizophrenia, this is again speculation, maybe those people just are not controlling it for certain reasons we don't understand.
Well, I think it would be because they themselves would have to think, wait a minute, how come I'm seeing these things? How come I'm hearing these things? You can see that it would make you feel crazy. I mean, and I know that's a terrible word in the medical community, but I meant it as an individual feeling that way.
It's definitely possible. And I think if we open up to this new understanding of consciousness, these sorts of theories will at least be explored.
Mark, I want to thank you again for appearing on our Afterwards segment and for appearing on our show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Barry.
My pleasure.